argument for the existence of God from morality. Um, Before I get into this video, I want to say that a couple things from the beginning. One is that obviously I am going to suggest that God is the grounding of the moral law. I know that people are going to be quick with responses like, well, where does God get his moral law from, and how do you explain the moral law from within God? And I have another video on this, so if that's your question, please go watch that video and leave comments about that topic on that video. I believe that video was called Origins of Morality. I'm going to give where I believe morality stems from, its origin, the definition of something good. Goodness, in moral terms, can be found not by prior definition or by some decree of God, but through moral intuition. Goodness is something that is immediately recognized prima facie. As an example of something good would be, all things being equal, loving one's family or giving a portion of one's incomes to an invalid. An example would be the Nazi Holocaust. We know through our moral intuition that that is objectively wrong, even if the Nazis thought it was good. We know that what those Nazis did to the Jews was wrong. Not just because our culture dictates it's wrong, but because the act itself was wrong. It was a bad thing what they did. Regardless of cultural perspective, it was bad. It was wrong. I think most people know that. Okay, terms of origins, here we go. This is where it gets juicy. Origins of morality. Where do morals come from? The standard of morality, the standard, is not external to God, but it is internal. Morality is grounded in the immutable, unchanging character of God, who is perfectly good. His commands are not whims, but they are rooted in his holy nature. Could God simply decree that torturing babies was moral? No. It's not a matter of command, it's a matter of character. Morality is not anterior to God, logically prior to him, but it's rooted in his immutable, unchanging nature. The definition of something good. Goodness, in moral terms, can be found not by prior definition or by some decree of God, but through moral intuition. Goodness is something that is immediately recognized prima facie. Morality is grounded in the immutable, unchanging character of God. There is a professor, Scott Ray at Biola University. He said something to the effect of, morality is not ultimately grounded in God's commands, but in his character, which then expresses itself in his commands. You see that? Now I know that there's a lot of burdens in this. This burden that God exists and that he's unchanging and that he's holy. Three things. A case for the existence of God from morality. It's a sort of transcendental argument. In my experience, it is almost impossible to enter into a dialogue with a skeptic without hearing a mention of the problem of evil. Even more so, the charges that are leveled against particular religions, such as Christianity, are based on the idea that the particular religion at hand has behaved in some ways that were morally abhorrent in the past, or dare I say evil. This charge, in and of itself, is a fair one and deserves an honest answer, especially from Christianity, I believe. But even prior to an answer being given, there are a number of presuppositions that are buried into the charge itself. One is that there is such a thing as objective evil. But for this to be the case, there would have to be such a thing as objective good as well. In order for this to be legitimate, there would have to be some sort of moral law in order to differentiate between the two. If there is no such thing as objective evil, then the claim being thrown at the theist is null. But objective evil presupposes objective good in order to tell the difference and an objective moral law by which to differentiate between the two. So to even announce the problem of evil is to posit objective morality. A person who truly holds to moral relativism cannot ever complain about the problem of evil, and that's important. To say something is evil or even wrong is to make a moral judgment, and if the validity of a moral judgment is subjective, then no merit can be given to a charge against Christianity for its violent past, nor the current evils of the world that exist today. For one could simply claim, well, that was their morality, or that was their own subjective notion of what was morally permissible. So to say something is evil is to make a moral judgment, and moral judgments make no sense outside of a context of a moral standard that is external to the individual. Evil as a value judgment marks a departure from that standard of morality. If there is no standard, then there is no departure. Let me give you an example. What does it mean to say, my carburetor is dysfunctioning? It is essentially to say that my carburetor is not functioning the way it ought to function. But for something to have a particular way to function is to presuppose prior agency or mind.